I'm around at this property doing a bit of work, and I noticed that the basement, which I don't know if you can see just there, you can see sort of like a grill that feeds into the basement, but the basement is very damp, and the other day there was quite a lot of water dripping through the side wall, which I thought was just down to rainwater seeping in, possibly through the pavement. But one of the neighbours mentioned the other day that a few weeks ago a builder was working up the road and that they were using this drain here in the road to pour all their sort of old plaster water away. So I thought I'd have a look at it today and just give it a bit of a poke just to see if it would clear, and it's absolutely full. Now the thing is, when I pulled my stick back out, I could see that it wasn't just plaster. I'm going to leave it to your imagination as to what it was, because this looks like it actually is part of the foul sewer system. And unfortunately, if you go around here, you can see that there's a manhole, and I'm assuming that the drains for both properties feed into this manhole. Now I'm not going to lift the manhole because it's a bit gruesome, but this is absolutely chocker with human debris and toilet paper. And unfortunately, I think that quite a lot of the water, inverted commas, that's seeping through the side wall of the basement, which would be just here, is actually foul water. So I've been on to Severn Trent Water. They've logged it as an emergency. They say they're going to be here within 4 hours to have a look, and hopefully they're going to be able to clear it. And hopefully that will resolve the damp issues in the basement. But of course, there's going to be all sorts of issues around how we actually get it cleaned up and dried out and all that kind of stuff. So when you're buying a property, the moral of the story is always sort of check out the drains, because this manhole actually is relatively easy to lift. I was thinking I was going to have to go and buy a crowbar at B&Q or whatever, but I could actually lift it by hand, so it wasn't too bad. And so that, to me, is the final clue. We'll see if Severn Trent Water agree when they come round. But drainage problems can cost an awful lot of money. It looks like the drains themselves aren't that bad in terms of the drains to the property, the private drains. Okay, here's the update. Well, a few hours have gone by and you can see that somebody's now come and parked on top of this. But it doesn't really matter, because Severn Trent Water did turn up and they were within the 4 hours. I think they were 2.5 hours. And they had a look at this and they said they can't do anything because it's down to highways. I then explained that I thought it might be linked to this drain here, and that might have been causing seepage into the basement. So they went and had a look in the basement and decided that it wasn't that wet, even though there's actually a puddle on the floor. But there we go. But they had a good look here, and yes, this was blocked, and so they rodded it through and they put their camera through to make sure that it was connected to the main drain, and that's all free and clear, which it is. So it appears that that isn't connected, which makes sense, because you'd imagine that's just a storm drain for rainwater, and this would go to a sewer, although apparently in some parts of this town the two do merge, so it's not a completely daft idea. But as far as we're concerned, this is now running free and clear. So if that was the cause of seepage into the basement, then obviously there's going to be far less of that. We're just going to have to watch it and see what happens. But hopefully the two were not connected. To be fair, the basement doesn't smell as if something nasty has gone into it. It just looked a bit soggy. So anyway, the point is that one thing which I think everybody should do, but which I think very few people do when they're buying a property, is check out the drains. So it's always worth having a crowbar or something like that in the car, just so you can lift a manhole or two and make sure the drains are flowing. Make sure that the drains haven't collapsed. When you lift something like this, you'll see there's a brick chamber. You just want to make sure that the pointing looks okay. I mean, it's going to be old and there's going to be wear and tear because it's been wet for many, many years. But you want to make sure that there's no sort of collapse there which can block the drains. And you can save yourself a lot of time and hassle and a lot of money by just being on top of it and checking that there's nothing wrong with the drainage system around any property that you're interested in. Because if you have to rectify it, it could cost you many, many thousands of pounds. And a question which I'm often asked by particularly new and beginner investors, but also some more experienced investors as well, is, Peter, I really want to get into property, or I really want to do more property, but the thing which makes me very nervous is that when I'm going around a property, I'm not really sure what I'm looking at. In fact, I'm not even sure a lot of the time what I'm looking for. And yet, when you go and see a property on a viewing, for example, you don't want to have a survey at that stage. You probably only want to really have a survey when you're making an offer, or if you've found a property which you think is going to work and before you make the offer. But of course, then we get into the whole catch-22 chicken and egg thing about, well, how do I even know if the property is going to work if I don't know what I'm looking at? Now, I can't completely solve this problem because I think a lot of this is going to come down to experience. But I can share with you a lot of the experience that I've had in over 40 years in property, including 25 years as a sort of an active chartered surveyor working for other people doing surveys. And I've produced a special resource for you, which is this: 63 common defects in investment property and how to spot them. Now, as it says on the tin, this will take you through the main defects that I've seen in property over and over again. It'll show you what to look for, how to identify those defects, so you'll have a much better idea of what you need to do to the property. If you're going to do a refurbishment, whether you're going to improve it and repair it, you'll have a much better idea of what project you're actually taking on. And hopefully, if you know very little about building construction or the kind of defects that you're going to find in a property, then 63 common defects in investment property and how to spot them is literally going to help you to spot them. And by the way, when you order your copy, you'll also find included is the template which I use when I go around viewing properties, inspecting properties, which will hopefully give you a much better chance of not missing any defects that there may be. Now, I have to say that this will not make you into a chartered surveyor, and reading this will not be a substitute for employing a surveyor to do a survey when the time is right. But hopefully it will give you a much better idea of A, whether you want to take the property forward and get a survey, or B, whether the property isn't quite what you're looking for, and then you should just walk away. So please come to my website www.thepropertyteacher.co.uk, click on Learning with Peter, click on the link for 63 common defects in investment property and how to spot them, and when I see your order come in, I will send you your link so you can download your copy immediately. And until next time, here's to successful property investing.